and those two got out of the mine just a few minutes before those 12 guys got burned to death. Unlike a lot of his friends and family, Peter never went back into the mine. He called it the worst bunch of carelessness that he ever seen in his life. And he was a crabby, cantankerous old man when I met him. I loved him. He was great, but he taught me what it was like to live in that mine. He taught me what it was like to live through that day. And that's what I wanted to explore, the emotional impact of this story. Because it's with us today. 100 years later, you're 100 miles away from the scene of the disaster. And we're talking about something that changed our lives, made each and every one of us and our families safer at work. We owe them more than a lot. We owe them almost everything. And we have to think about it, these immigrants coming over and finding coal mining to be a great job and to make nothing as pay, literally nothing, but raise families, good families that came on and raised future generation of families too. And I'm proud to be sitting with these authors up here. I'm proud to be mentioned in the same name as this disaster. I've worked hard and studied hard and tried to learn a lot about this. History can change your life. It changed my life. And that's what we have to teach these kids. That history is more than facts and figures in a book. It's real people. It's real emotional stories. And if we give the children, the students, the opportunity to hear these stories and learn these stories and teach them about their community and teach them about their own backyard, we'd make a better society. It was my generation who told the last generation, get out of the way. We want to take over. We're going to do a better job than you. Well, we haven't, have we? It's the next generation that has to do better than my generation is. And that's what I'm praying for. That's what I'm hoping for. And that's what I expect out of these kids when they get out of school. We have to teach these kids that history is important. It can make a difference in your life. The old cliche, if you don't study history, you're doomed to repeat it. Iraq taught me that. And we're living that right now, aren't we? History will change our students' life. If I was a history teacher, like Ron here was a history teacher for so many years, here's what I would do to open a class. First day of school, I'd take roll, and I'd say, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to give me a 10-page paper on your grandfather's first job. Nice to meet you. Goodbye. First of all, their lives are over. 10 pages, they're done. And you can't Google my grandfather's first job and hit search. And the best thing about that paper, ladies and gentlemen, is that they'll remember that paper the rest of their lives. It will never leave them. That's what we have to do, make history personal, make history relevant. And that's what we've all tried to do in our writings today. And that's what we're all trying to teach you tonight. History is important, but you have to make it personal, you have to make it relevant, and if you do, you win. We'll not only have a better society, we'll have a better world. Again, I am so proud to be here. Thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Ron Blamer. I'm still teaching history. Sorry.
That's okay. You retired once. And
I did. I retired 10 years ago, and I went right back at it again. I tried to retire last year. The dean called me in. They had a situation at IVCC where one of the schools desperately needed one of our courses. We teach at the high schools, the college courses. And they said, please come back. Come out of retirement. We need you. No one else can do the job. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. With one caveat, I had a trip planned to go down to see the Panama Canal because I'm a lifelong historian. And I said, I've got this cruise planned. That comes first. If you can work around that, fine. The dean called back 5 minutes later. He said, take your cruise. They want you no matter what. So that was a real plus for me. And I've been doing it. I've been back at all. I'm teaching at 3 different schools right now for IVCC. My genealogy doesn't follow the same lines that my esteemed colleagues followed. My grandfather that I knew about was a serf It's kind of a Robin Hood type story. He grew up on a baron's land in Germany. He was caught out hunting deer, and of course that wasn't allowed in the 1800s even. And his only recourse, other than being thrown in prison, was to escape to America. And he got on board a ship, smuggled himself aboard, got to America, and raised a large family. Several points were made tonight that I think are excellent, and I want to put my book, Fire Below, into perspective and why I did it, because this was my second book on the mines. I have one original book called Black Diamond Mines. It's out of print right now, and what I tried to do was cover all the mines and the economic developments that occurred because of those mines up in the Illinois Valley, which I term the area along Interstate 80 from about Joliet on over. I had a couple of early experiences in childhood. Mention's been made of the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry and the mine there, the simulated mine. And of course, that was always very exciting when you go in there and you take their little trolley ride and you think you're going all through these alleyways and things to get to the mine shaft and see the equipment. It doesn't quite reveal what it's really like in mining, but it was the best idea I had about it. My father also took me out to the strip mines out by Joliet, Braceville, Braidwood, areas like that. We were looking for fossils. I really didn't know what was going on. I was always interested in geology, though, and later on I was able to get a degree in history and geology, and so I went on with that feeling that I wanted to look into it even more. After I wrote my first book on the coal mines of Illinois, I wanted to go into even more depth about the cherry mine because I felt it was something that I just touched on in my first book, and there was much more to the story than I could possibly cover in a short chapter that I had written. So I did the research, and I wanted to go at it from a different perspective. Because I did not have any relations that tied into the cherry mine, I went into it as a pure historian. I wanted to get the facts as they happened. I'm also, like Steve, I was a reporter. I'm still a reporter for the News Tribune up in LaSalle. And I felt, because everyone was gone, Steve got the last interview with the last miner, the only source that I could go to, which would have eyewitness testimony, would be the reporters who were there on the scene. And so I dug through all the newspapers of the area, the Bureau County Republican, LaSalle Tribune, the Ottawa newspaper, and the Chicago Tribune. Because what's left out of all our commentary here tonight is what Chicago did to help the families after the disaster. Everybody turned out. The Illinois Valley turned out by the tens of thousands because everybody had relations who had somebody in their family that was related to mining. I spent a good portion of my life, most of my life now, in Granville. On either side of me, Mark and Standard, there were mines. There's the dumps there. The kids don't know much about it. It's a big slag heap. That's about it. I wanted to know more, and one of my trips, I actually went into the mines in West Frankfort, Illinois. My wife and I were some of the last people to actually go 600 feet underground into the mine. And shortly after that, they closed it to civilian viewing. But that was a real experience. And I saw the same coal that underlies the cherry mine. The vein was not 3 feet thick as it is a cherry, but rather 7 to 8 feet thick. And so they could go in there with the big machinery, and still in southern Illinois, they can excavate that coal. But of course, we can't use it in Illinois because it's a high sulfur content. So we import all of it. You see the Union Pacific trains going up through Mendota every day. Coal for Chicago, okay? But it doesn't come from Illinois, unfortunately. So going through all the old newspapers on microfilm, it's all out there. I wanted to do that and see how the reporters covered the story because that's what I do as well. So you get different perspectives on it. If you look at the names in the books, you'll find different spellings on all the names because reporters in those days weren't like our present-day newspapers that never make typos or mistakes in spelling